A very good evening and thank you for joining GBS News at 9. My name is Susan Nganga and our sign language interpreter tonight is Paul Mathange. We begin this bulletin where President William Ruto has today pitched the country to the investors, stating that Kenya has the potential to grow and manufacture products internationally. Ruto, who spoke during the foundation stone-laying ceremony for the Vipingo Special Economic Zone, has urged investors to expand their investment in the region, as Davis Karani now reports.
In a move to market Kenya to the outside world, President William Ruto has encouraged both local and international investors to increase their investment in the country and especially in Vipingo, Kilifi County due to its potential growth in the manufacturing industry.
We can power the industrialization and the manufacturing of our nation going into the future and position Kenya as the place and the destination for manufacturing and industrialization programs that are coming from the rest of the world. So I just want to assure the investors who are here that government of Kenya is making policy decisions, whether it is fiscal, whether it is in the area of infrastructure, whether it is in the area of making sure that our special economic zones have the least bureaucracy so that we can create a better hub of industrialization and manufacturing in Kenya. I can assure you that the people of Kenya are the most hardworking.
The president has also stated that it is time for Kenya to grow economically and join the global economic chain of manufacturing and production, stating that Vipingo Beach has already gained $3 billion from different investors in the world.
This is an important opportunity for Kenya to be part of the global value chain of manufacturing, to be part of the industrial and manufacturing value chain of the world. And it is because there is greater belief in our country. There is going to be an investment in this special economic zone in Vipingo of $3 billion. And I have friends here from Afri-Exim Bank, from Arise, and from our own local investors, people who are going to work together to unlock the potential, the manufacturing and industrialization potential of Kenya, because we want to position Kenya as the gateway to the bigger market of Africa under the Africa Continental Free Trade area. We have 1.5 billion people in this continent.
Davis Karani for GBS News.
And now to matters education. Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba has inaugurated new council members at Kenyatta University, reaffirming the government's commitment to sustainable governance and financial stability across public universities. Let's take a listen.
Said council are key to steering reform and assured members of full support. He cited progress in stabilizing university finance, noting that 14 institutions remain technically insolvent, down from 23 when the current administration took office.
When this administration came in, we are very well aware that we had at least 23 universities out of the 43 who are technically insolvent. As we speak today, and because of the interventions that the government has been able to do, that number has now reduced to 14. And it is the government's commitment that within the next 2-3 years would have moved all our universities from being technically insolvent, those who were, to being sustainable.
He pointed to the student-centered funding model and reduced fees as part of the turnaround. At KU, over 9,500 of the 10,480 new students have already paid their fees. Meru and Machakos universities also reported strong compliance. Ogamba pledged that no qualified student would miss university due to lack of fees, with the government covering any shortfall.
That's why the programs that we have introduced as a government, including the student-centered funding model, and the reduction of the school fees from for programs from between 15% to 40% has made it possible for these students to be able to pay They are part of their fees. Let me also bring to your attention that most of the universities who admitted the students, the average payment rate is at 85%.
He also announced a national conference next week in Mombasa to align costs with the market needs. Council Chair Dr. Ben Chumo welcomed the new members and thanked the CS for his support. On basic education, Ogamba said over 15,000 schools have been verified in a nationwide audit aimed at improving capitation and planning. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Ibrahim Said.
And that takes us to our very first break here. GBS News at 9. Keep your feedback streaming into our social media platforms at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 21144. We'll be right back.
What are some of the misconceptions that people think about when it comes to modeling, especially female models?
Yeah.
How do you deal with negative feedback?
I tell you, embrace yourself, own your own identity, and don't rush to grow up. Know yourself first before you decide on what you want to do.
Your parents know that you're doing actuarial science.
Yes.
Then they heard that you're doing modeling.
Yeah.
How do they feel about that?
Yeah.
What are you looking at after Miss Popularity? There's something we like to do on this show. Nataka uangalie kwa ile camera. I want you to advise yourself moving forward in your modeling career as an actuarial science student. Yes. Starting with Dear Rosarita.
So today we're diving into a topic that has become rather popular right here in Kenya, the K-pop culture.
I would say K-pop invokes creativity, like mega creativity. I have friends who are creative and you'll see you've done that and they're like, yeah. An ex told me that K-pop girls, K-pop stan girls, who's like, the men you stan look like women and you aim to get a man that looks like that. So if you fail to find a man like that, because obviously you're in Kenya, you're not going to find a pretty man.
For me, it's like I have two personalities at this point. I have my normal life and I have my army life. Because when I get into my army life, it's just like a whole new world. A community full of people who don't judge, people who accept you.
Learning Korean from a Kenyan can sometimes mess you up because they pronounce words differently, and when you speak to a native, it's like, hold up, what did you say?
I've never met like a K-pop fan. I don't know why.
What am I?
No, not when people want to like express themselves like I'm a K-pop fan. Unless you see them like wearing like a branded t-shirt or a branded hoodie, you realize that they're K-pop fan.
The main campaign of BTS is loving yourself, right? And K-pop has a lot of drawbacks, just like anything else. Too much of something is poisonous, yeah? And one of the drawbacks is it comes with beauty because they have these absurd beauty standards. While BTS passed this message that you're supposed to love yourself, embrace yourself, you're just perfect the way you are. You don't have to eat less to be beautiful. You're beautiful from the inside, right? Get into BTS, it's hard to come out.
Okay.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the bulletin. And now, 42 million people face high levels of acute food insecurity this year across 6 IGAD member states, that is Djibouti, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, and Sudan and Uganda, according to IGAD Regional Focus of the 2025 Global Report on Food Crisis released today. In 5 countries with compatible data since 2016, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, and Uganda, the number of people facing high levels of acute food insecurity has tripled over recent years, from 13.9 million in 2016 during the first edition of the Global Report of Food Crisis to 41.7 million in 2025. Let's take a look at the full reports.
The number of people in crisis or worse that is IPC phase 3 or above, has tripled from 13.9 million in 2016 to 41.7 million in 2025.
A new IGAD report has sounded the alarm on a worsening food crisis, revealing that more than 42 million people in 6 countries across the Horn of Africa are facing dangerous levels of hunger this year.
In 6 countries, with data meeting the GRFC methodology requirements, that is Djibouti, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan and Uganda, 42 million people, or 29% of the analyzed population, face high levels of acute food insecurity in 2025.
In its 2025 regional focus of the Global Report on Food Crises, IGAD paints a grim picture. The number of people struggling with severe food insecurity has tripled in less than a decade, from 14 million in 2016 to nearly 42 million. Sudan tops the list with 24.6 million people highly food insecure and multiple areas at risk of famine.
The Sudan remains the region's largest and most severe food crisis. Though data remains limited, 24.6 million people, representing 51% of the analyzed population, were projected to face high levels of acute food insecurity between December 2024 and May 2025 by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, that is the IPC.
South Sudan follows closely with over half its population in crisis levels of hunger, to counties already on the brink of famine.
South Sudan has the region's highest prevalence of acute food insecurity, with 57% of its population in crisis or worse.
Conflict, economic shocks, climate extremes, and mass displacement are fueling the crisis.
For the past 2 years, conflict in the Sudan has been the leading driver of acute food insecurity in the region. We will zoom into the Sudan later in the presentation. In South Sudan, escalating hostilities in Upper Nile since February 2025 have worsened acute food insecurity, with a plausible risk of famine in Luakpin as well as Ulang counties. In Somalia, insecurity has continued to drive loss of livelihoods and displacement. Intercommunal violence and resource-based conflict also affects parts of Kenya and Uganda.
The outlook is even bleaker, with forecasts of drier than usual conditions across southern Ethiopia, eastern Kenya, and much of Somalia, regions already reeling from droughts.
The upcoming October to December 2025 rainfall season is forecast to be drier than usual in several parts, and this includes eastern Kenya and much of Somalia, which remains of concern given that drought conditions currently persist.
Going to face a drought just like the one we faced previously in 2021 to 2023, where we had a severe food shortage. We also lost a significant number of livestock. We lost more than 2.5 heads of cattle during that time, and more than 2.5 million people in Kenya were affected, and the government was forced to provide relief food supplies. Now we are going to face a similar drought. For example, the meteorological department has informed us that the short rains, which normally starts in October, is going to be very weak, and therefore food production will be affected.
The human toll is staggering. 11.4 million children acutely malnourished, 3.1 million in urgent need of life-saving treatment, and 1 million more at risk of being cut off due to funding shortages. The region also holds the world's highest displacement figures, with 23.2 million people uprooted, 10 million of them inside Sudan alone. Uganda remains Africa's top refugee host, sheltering nearly 2 million people. Susan Nganga, GBS News, Nairobi. Now moving forward, one person has been killed and 3 others injured after armed bandits turned a busy highway in Baringo into a scene of robbery and bloodshed. The attack, reported along the Marigat-Loruk Road this morning, has heightened security concerns in the festive region. Here are the details.
According to the witnesses, the attackers ambushed travelers at a sharp bend, opening fire before stealing cash, phones, and personal belongings. Panic-stricken passengers were forced to flee into nearby thickets, while motorists abandoned vehicles to escape the hail of bullets. Local police later confirmed that a man succumbed to gunshot wounds, while 3 victims were rushed to Kabarnet County hospitals with serious injuries.
Tulipofika kabla tujafika Ruruk, kuna diversion kwa sababu pale Ruruk maji imejaa. Kuingia kwa hiyo diversion, tukafika katikati. Tukapata jamaa ametokelezea ambaye amejifunga macho. Huyo jamaa akatuamuru tuingie kwa msitu. Wakati driver hajamaliza tu hivi akapiga risasi moja mguu. Akatuitisha pesa. Akachukua pesa, nikampea 200, akachukua ya wale. Alafu kulikuwa na pesa bagi yangu karibu 60,000, akachukua yote. Alafu akaanza sasa akademand apewe receipt book, haone kwamba tumempea pesa yote. Hapo ndipo alipiga co-driver marisasi kama 10 kwa shingo, akaaga.
The Marigat-Loruk highway has increasingly become a hotspot for bandit attacks, with several incidents reported in recent months. Residents have long complained about inadequate security patrols, noting that bandits often strike during peak travel hours. Previous appeals to authorities for a permanent police post along the stretch are yet to bear fruit.
Kaingia kwa driver, baada ya kumalizana na driver, sasa risasi ikaisha, akanipiga moja, risasi ikaisha, akaenda kuleta risasi. Wakati ameleta risasi, ndio tulipata usaidizi. Lakini alikuwa amepaswa kio ya nyuma, alikuwa ananifuruta, ananiambia ataniulia hapo nje. Hapo ndio tulipata usaidizi ya kufika kunipiga. Askari aliyefika mmoja walimenyana na yeye sana.
Security agencies say they have launched a manhunt for the attackers and intensified patrols in the area to reassure road users. Local leaders are calling for urgent government intervention to protect travelers and bring lasting peace to Baringo, warning that unchecked banditry could cripple transport and trade in the region. Molly Rono for GBS News.
And still on security matters, a multi-agency operation led by the National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse has recovered a stockpile of drugs and illicit liquor right next to a primary school in Siaya town. The sting, which has sparked a public outcry, dismantled a notorious drug and alcohol ring that had been operating at Mahinga village in Nyandiwa sublocation. One suspect is in custody. Let's take a listen.
In the media at Siaya police station, Nakada's deputy director Simon Mwangi expressed shock that the base of the drug moguls was located just across the fence from Awela Primary School. He noted that 75,610 Kenya shillings in suspected illicit proceeds was also seized.
We've been able to nab an assortment of drugs and substances ranging from cannabis, changa, uncustomed cigarettes, and uncustomed alcohol from a neighboring country. This is following the Rapid Results Initiative on Drugs that was issued by the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen. And we've been able to nab one suspect who will be arraigned in court to face charges on a wide range of charges because of the kind of substances that have been nabbed. The operation was targeted at a specific area within the county, which is Mainga, And the school in which the drugs are being sold just nearby is called Awelo Primary School.
Mwangi said the crackdown is part of the countrywide rapid resort initiative against drugs as directed by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen. He urged members of the public to report drug activities through the toll-free number 1192 to help secure communities.
The suspect that is in custody was operating just close to a school fence, primary school fence. So we will continue with the sustained crackdowns across the country and make sure that we implement the rapid result initiative that has been directed by the Cabinet Secretary. NACADA calls on members of the public to volunteer any information that they have through our toll-free number 1192 so that we can get rid of drug and substances within the borders of our country.
Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul M. Minor.
And now still in Siaya, hundreds of employees dismissed as ghost workers by the county government have taken to the streets demanding a transparent audit into their recruitment and for reinstatement. Here are the details.
More than 300 youthful health workers, including nurses, clinicians, laboratory technologists, and public health officers, marched through the Siaya town before presenting a petition of the county assembly. They later proceeded to Governor James Orengo's office, but found the gates locked. Speaking outside the assembly, the workers accused the Siaya County Public Service Board of orchestrating their dismissal through false claims. Clinical Officer Emily Nabwala Anyango, reading a statement on behalf of her colleagues, dismissed assertions that the Directorate of Criminal Investigation was involved in verifying forged appointment letters. She said none of the workers had been contacted by the investigators or charged in court.
Here is the truth. Number one, no CID investigation exists. To date, not a single health worker has been contacted by the CID to record a statement. No one has been arrested or charged in court over these alleged forgeries. The county police commander has issued no public report confirming such an investigation.
The workers demanded the immediate payment of 8 months' salary arrears and conditional reinstatement, and a public apology from Governor Orengo. They further appealed to health unions, religious leaders, civil society, and the media to push for an independent investigation into the scandal. Their protests came after the Siaya County Public Service Board Chairman Wilfred Nyagundi announced that more than 380 ghost workers had infiltrated the health department using forged documents. Nyagundi said that while only 120 candidates were legally recruited, the number of reporting employees suddenly ballooned to over 500, suggesting collusion by an unscrupulous syndicate.
We challenge the county police commander to issue immediate public report confirming or denying the existence of this so-called investigation. The real crime, the county's betrayal of 382 healthcare workers. The true injustice is not fictional forgery. It is the Siaya County government's action that constitutes a grave violation of our constitutional and labor rights. 1. Violation of Article 28 of the Constitution. We have been subjected to cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment through public verification and wrongful branding as ghosts, stripping us of our dignity. And 2, violation of Article 47 of the Constitution and the Fair Administrative Action Act. The government failed to issue written communication justifying our dismissal of the criteria used to arbitrarily exclude 382 workers while selectively retaining 120 others. There was no notice, no hearing, and no recourse.
The demonstrators vowed to continue pushing until the matter is fully investigated and the truth laid bare. Local leaders, including members of the county assembly, have pledged to pursue the issue, raising pressure on the county government to provide answers in the coming days. Molin Rono for GBS News.
It is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming into our social media platforms at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is always 21144. We'll be right back.
The boy was growing normal, because the normal is what we should get back into. What is happening now is the abnormal.
And that is not happening today, because there is a place for fatherhood that is lacking in our day. Maybe that's
Wow. My name is Dr. Peter Mureithi Elisha, PM. Walk the talk, mentors, and you parents. How do you explain to your daughter who finds that you bring men to the house when their father is not there? How will she behave?
Monkey do.
Yes. Today in our nation, the girl is quite empowered. Even if you go around and watch around, you will hear Girl Child Empowerment Project.
Ufadhili umekuwa vipi?
Nadhani ukiangalia our culture ama our mindset kwa hii nchi, watu wanaona ni kama michezo hakuna pesa.
Nini itakufanya uende ukaekeze kwa kandanda?
So ukitazama uangalie kuna ile mambo ya impact ambayo utapata kwa your brand. So if you want to align your brand na hiyo football, it's a plus.
Yes.
So what we're trying to do with our investors now, I can tell you for free, H-Pesa, we also have Nutrient, who are fintech companies, financial technology companies, who now we are working together. They have come to us because of the numbers we have.
Maybe if you look, maybe FC and other teams, are you regulating when you put your money?
In FC.
Not at all. We say numbers never lie. So
yes, numbers never lie.
We'll always tell you the truth. Innovation is what drives change. And in the technology space, it's what you do different and the gaps that you see that make you better than the rest.
The candidates ambao wanawania hizo viti, what's the most question we would ask all of them?
Now my next big concern, how can we monetize football in this country?
I think my question would be very simple. How do we bring more people? How do we make football so attractive that most people can invest in it?
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the bulletin, and now to international news. In Sudan, survivors of the recent siege in North Darfur are recounting harrowing stories of rape, torture, and killings as the region continues to grapple with devastating impact of the conflict. Here are the details.
Dozens of residents who fled the town of El Fashar and surrounding villages shared testimonies of sexual violence, forced disappearances, and brutal beatings allegedly carried out by armed groups. Many of the survivors described how homes were raided, women targeted, and families separated during the height of the fighting. Humanitarian organizations operating in the area reported that the siege left civilians trapped without food, medicine, or safe passage, worsening an already dire humanitarian crisis. Aid agencies also noted that many survivors arrived at displacement camps severely traumatized, while others remain unaccounted for.
We gave them money, but the Rapid Support Forces took some women away who couldn't pay into a room. We don't know if they were beaten or raped. They threatened us and we got money out. We couldn't sleep from the sounds of men being whipped and robbed nearby. All my brothers are trapped there. There is no one to take care of me.
The violence in Darfur has escalated since the conflict between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces broke out last year, with civilians bearing the heaviest burden. The United Nations and rights groups have repeatedly warned that widespread sexual violence is being used as a weapon of war and have called for urgent international intervention. Regional leaders and humanitarian partners have also appealed for accountability, while survivors continue to demand justice and protection from further attacks.
They raped my 2 younger daughters in front of me. There is nothing more than that. They fled from shame and humiliation. I haven't seen them since. I'm living in a state of emotional torture and have depression from the number of cases I have to deal with, to the point where I had a mental breakdown. I direct my blame towards the international community. How can they talk about human rights? Where is the humanity?
International agencies have pledged to step up emergency assistance in North Darfur, but warn that without an immediate ceasefire, survivors of the siege will continue to suffer. Calls are mounting for global action to protect civilians, deliver aid safely, and hold perpetrators of atrocities to account. Maureen Rono for GBS News.
A new report from Human Rights Watch has revealed that around 50 civilians have been killed in northern Burkina Faso since May in a series of jihadist attacks. The right group says Al-Qaeda linked to Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wa al-Muslimin and the Islamic State in the Sahel are responsible for the deadly assaults in Jibo, Yoba, and a humanitarian convoy near Gorom. The attacks, which Human Rights Watch calls war crimes, highlight the ongoing insecurity in the region, despite repeated promises from Burkina Faso's military junta to restore order under the rule of Captain Ibrahim Traore. Violence has persisted, with civilians caught between jihadist violence and alleged abuses by government forces. Human Rights Watch says it is informed the country's justice and defense ministries of its finding in August, but received no response. The group now calling on the African Union to increase pressure on Burkina Faso to protect civilians and hold all perpetrators accountable. It is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming into our social media platforms at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 21144. We'll be right back.
What are some of the misconceptions that people think about when it comes to modeling, especially female models?
Yeah.
How do you deal with negative feedback?
I tell you, embrace yourself, own your own identity, and don't rush to grow up. Know yourself first before you decide on what you want to do.
Your parents know that you're doing actual science.
Yes.
Then they heard that you're doing modeling.
Yeah.
How do they feel about that? What are you looking at after Miss Popularity? There's something you like to do on this show. Nataka uangalie kwa ile camera. I want you to advise yourself moving forward in your modeling career as an actuarial science student, yes. Starting with dear Rosarita.
So today we are diving into a topic that has become rather popular right here in Kenya, the K-pop culture?
I would say K-pop invokes creativity, like mega creativity. I have friends who are creative and you've done that and they're like, yeah.
An ex told me that K-pop stan girls, it was like the men you stan look like women and you aim to get a man that looks like that. So if you fail to find a man like that, because obviously you're in Kenya, you're not going to find a pretty man.
For me, it's like I have two personalities at this point. I have my normal life and I have my army life. Because when I get into my army life, it's just like a whole new world. A community full of people who don't judge, people who accept you.
Learning Korean from a Kenyan can sometimes mess you up because they pronounce words differently, and when you speak to a native, it's like, hold up, what did you say?
I've never met like a K-pop fan. I don't know why. What am I? No, not when people want to like express themselves like I'm a K-pop fan. Unless you see them like wearing like a branded T-shirt or a branded hoodie, you realize that they're K-pop fans.
The main campaign of BTS is loving yourself, right? And K-pop has a lot of drawbacks. Just like anything else, too much of something is poisonous, yeah? And one of the drawbacks is it comes with beauty because they have these absurd beauty standards. While BTS passed this message that you're supposed to love yourself, embrace yourself, you're just perfect the way you are. You don't have to eat less to be beautiful. You're beautiful from the inside, right? Get into BTS, it's hard to come out.
Okay.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back to the bulletin, and now to more international news. A controversial deportation of 14 West African migrants from the United States to Ghana is drawing growing criticism. Ghanaian authorities say they accepted the group on humanitarian grounds and later helped them return to Nigeria and Gambia. But lawyers representing several of the men claim they are still stuck in Ghana and fear for their safety if sent home. Here is more on the scene.
14 West African migrants, 13 from Nigeria and 1 from Gambia, were deported from the US to Ghana, where officials say they were received on humanitarian grounds and later sent to their home countries.
First batch of 14 nationals came. Several of them were Nigerian brothers. They opted to go back home, and so we put them on buses, to be able to go back home. One of them was a Gambian who it's not as easy. You have to get him an air ticket to be able to facilitate his travel. So what we've done is contacted their embassy to let them know of his presence so that they can facilitate his return to Gambia. And so that's the issue with regards to deportations and arrivals.
Ghana's foreign minister emphasized the country refused any payment from the United States, calling the decision an act of African solidarity, not support for the US immigration policies.
We are only helping our brothers and sisters. We are coming in purely on humanitarian grounds, expressing Pan-African solidarity, which Ghana is famed for. So we should rather be seen as a country that wants to look out for its fellow Africans. That is why we made it clear to the Americans that we will not accept $1. We don't want any, because it comes with some financial burden, hosting them, taking care of their accommodation and all of that before they transition to their country.
But lawyers representing 4 of the men say they were never sent home and remain stranded in Ghana. According to their legal team, the deportations violated due process. The men were never told where they were going, and some now fear persecution or torture if returned to their countries.
We believe that the plaintiffs' deportations to Ghana did not comply with principles of due process. These people were not told where they were going to be taken. They were just awoken in the middle of the night inside their cells in ICE detention centers across the US and taken to a single ICE detention center and then put on a plane without being told where they were being taken.
The case has sparked legal and ethical concerns, highlighting the human impact of rapid deportation efforts under the Trump administration. As the legal battle unfolds, the fate of these migrants remains uncertain, caught between shifting immigration policies and questions of international responsibility. Elvis Muyodi, GBS News.
And now to the Middle East. Special Envoy for Yemen Hans Grunberg reiterated that the unacceptable arrest of UN staff, the forced entry into UN premises, and the seizure of UN property in violation of international law endanger the UN's very ability to advance peace efforts and deliver humanitarian support to the Yemeni people. Grunberg briefed the Council on the situation in Yemen. He highlighted the latest wave of arbitrary detentions of 22 United Nations staff, as Davis Karani now reports.
Turning to the front lines in Yemen, where relative stability continues to hold, recent military activities in areas such as Al-Dale, Marib and Taiz serves as a warning that miscalculations from either party could trigger a return to the full-scale conflict.
The latest wave of arbitrary detentions of 22 United Nations staff in Sana'a and Hodeidah is an egregious escalation by Ansar Allah against the United Nations. While one staff member has recently been released, there are now over 40 UN personnel detained, in addition to a colleague who died while in detention. The United Nations and all its staff serve under the principles of impartiality, integrity, and respect for human rights and dignity. Their unacceptable arrests, the forced entry into UN premises, and the seizure of UN property in violation of international law endangers the United Nations' very ability to advance peace efforts and deliver humanitarian support to the Yemeni people.
This is what the special envoy from Yemen stated.
The consequences of war would be devastating for Yemen and the wider region. We must therefore continue efforts to de-escalate tension along the front lines and maintain a meaningful security dialogue with all relevant actors. The productive engagement by government of Yemen's military representatives, as well as those from the wider region, under the auspices of the Military Coordination Committee, remains vital for maintaining open lines of communication and confidence building among the parties. The opening and securing of some of the key roads across the country in the last year demonstrate that cooperation is possible.
The productive engagement by the government of Yemen's military representatives, as well as those from the wider region under the auspices of the Military Coordination Committee, remains vital for maintaining open lines of communications and confidence building among the parties.
Rising food prices, security threats to our work, a collapsing economy, and persistent conflict have made Yemen the third most food insecure country on earth. Before February next year, 1 million more people are expected to be forced into extreme hunger, joining 17 million Yemenis with too little to eat. This includes more than 40,000 people in the catastrophic phase of food insecurity.
Fletcher also remained gravely concerned by the continued hostility between the parties, resulting in scores of casualties and damage of critical infrastructure. Airstrikes against Sana'a and Al-Jof since the last council briefing are reported to have resulted in more than 300 casualties.
International humanitarian law must be respected. Civilians and civilian objects must be protected.
The top UN humanitarian reiterated that the UN and the humanitarian personnel must be protected to do their job and to save lives.
It is outrageous, at a time when humanitarians are trying to serve the Yemeni people, while beset by funding cuts, that our operational capacity is being further and needlessly jeopardized. Detaining staff, humanitarian staff, does not help the people of Yemen. It doesn't feed the hungry, heal the sick, nor protect those displaced by floods or fighting. UN and humanitarian personnel must be protected to do their jobs and save lives.
They also stated that it is a flagrant violation of all international agreements and the principle of international humanitarian law, stating that the source funding must be removed. Davis Karani for GBS News.
And more on the Middle East. Israel has bombed and destroyed the tallest residential building in Gaza, the Al-Ghafri high-rise, as it launched a massive wave of strikes on Gaza City on Monday evening, forcing hundreds of thousands of residents to continue to flee the city. Francesca Albanese, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the occupied Palestinian territory, says Israel is using unconventional weapons to forcibly evict Palestinians from Gaza City, the largest urban center in the enclave.
Can see. For the third day in a row, Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs Israel Katz has posted videos of the attacks. He wrote on X, "The terror tower crashes into the Sea of Gaza, sinking the centuries of terror and incitement." Katz offered no evidence for his claim that the residential tower was being used by Hamas.
An Israeli airstrike on this building has displaced hundreds of people in this area. People move to the coast and on the streets. They don't know where to go.
Israel says it's targeted this building for suspicious activity, but since the beginning of this war, it's only been civilians living here. No political affiliations, as Israel is claiming. Despite what Israel is doing, we're not going to leave, no matter what happens. Even if they turn up with their tanks, we're not leaving.
Israel has repeatedly attacked residential areas, schools and hospitals during its 23rd month of genocidal war. Since October 2023, Israel has killed at least 64,905 Palestinians and wounded 164,926, with thousands more still buried under rubble. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Paul M. Haina.
The World Trade Organization has formally brought into force its first multilateral agreement focused on environmental sustainability. The Fisheries Subsidies Agreement, ratified earlier today in Geneva, aims to curb billions in harmful subsidies that contribute to overfishing and marine depletion.
The World Trade Organization has officially brought into force the Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies following a special General Council meeting in Geneva on September 15th. The deal prohibits government support for illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, as well as subsidies that contribute to overfishing and stock depletion.
Today, we have gathered to pass that threshold and to formally mark and celebrate the entry into force of this important addition to the WTO rulebook.
Just moments ago, we witnessed the formal deposit of the instruments of acceptance by Brazil, Kenya, Vietnam, and Tonga. A pivotal step that has officially brought the WTO Agreement on Fisheries Subsidies into force.
Director General Ngozi Okonjo confirmed that Brazil, Kenya, Vietnam and Tonga deposited the instrument of acceptance, pushing the agreement past the required 2/3 threshold. A WTO fish fund has been launched to support developing countries in implementing the agreement. 17 members have pledged more than $18 million so far.
Today's achievement is a landmark for global trade governance. The entry into force of the WTO's first agreement with environmental sustainability at its core. But it is more than that. At a time when the international trading system faces profound challenges, it sends a powerful signal that WTO members can work together in a spirit of cooperation and shared responsibility to deliver solutions to global challenges. Each year, governments spend an estimated $22 billion in harmful subsidies that contribute to overfishing and the depletion of marine resources. With the implementation of this agreement, these expenditures will fall, mitigating the harm they cause. In addition, WTO members will have the opportunity to repurpose these resources towards more sustainable fisheries management, supporting practices that protect marine ecosystems, strengthen livelihoods, and enhance food security. This transformation holds particular significance for the more than 260 million people worldwide who rely on marine fisheries for their livelihoods.
The agreement was adopted at the WTO's 12th Ministerial Conference in 2022. Reporting for GBS TV, I'm Ibrahim Said.
And that report brings us to the end of our news bulletin. It's always a pleasure having you on board. Let's do this again next time, same channel. My name is Susan Nganga, and our sign language interpreter tonight has been Paul Mathenge. Have a good night.
Coming up on Mta Madness. Love collides with betrayal. An unexpected truth will shake the neighborhood to its core.
Mwanga huu ankojemu atiajai kuletea kitu. Haya. Ndio hiyo. Miracle. Utopia anko. Usijali, hiyo ni mambo yangu. Check expiry 2022. Iko 2025. Ni mkebe ime-expire kitu iko ndani ni legit.
Decision, one secret, and a storm no one saw coming.
Apparently, the pastor's school has sports betting court embroidered.
When trust breaks,
all rent must be paid by M-Pesa or bank transfer.
the fallout is inevitable.
Nauliza, na hii kili yako iko registered ya mchile kwa jina gani? Madam Transparency. Tuliona Fraud Surprise Limited. Kioski vya stoko.
Next time, the past refuses to stay buried.
Jackpot promotion. Unajua? Ile jackpot promotion. My farm. Wamekulipia. So, unaweza jiunga. Nashukuru sana.
Sasa ndio mnajua kugonga. What they don't know won't light their torches.
Mta Madness, a choice that changes everything.
Everywhere, GBS.